Shabbat Shalom. I just want to welcome everyone to the Sabbath Day conference call. This is Barbara. I'm serving as your host today, and Brother Pete is here today as your co-host.
Yes, welcome aboard. We're so glad you could be a part of this.
Well, today, this is an objection that someone posted on our Facebook group, which is Lunar Sabbath Day. We're on there also. And this is a true objection by many Saturday Sabbath keepers. And I'm going to go over here to the objection. Very simple. This is his words. Very simple. God's seventh day is a day of rest. 6 days he created, and seventh day he rested. Never ever did he say, when the moon is such, that is the seventh day. He worked 6 days, the next day he rested. Very, very simple. Okay, well, here's a question we must answer. Are there any passages in Scripture that clearly state a continuous sequential 7-day cycle is the memorial of the creation week? If yes, are there 2 or 3 witnesses that the thing is established by Yah? Well, over here on the right are 3 verses that talk about things being established with 2 or 3 witnesses. In Genesis 41:32, it says the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. Deuteronomy 19:15 says at the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3. And 2 Corinthians 13:11 says the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. So are there 2 or 3 witnesses about a continuous weekly cycle? No, there are none. Well, are there any passages of Scripture that clearly state that the moon regulates appointed times? If yes, are there 2 or 3 witnesses? Yes, there are plenty. The moon is on an approximate 29.5-day lunation or cycle, and the Creator's lunar month is always based on a 7-day week. The cycle of 6 working days followed by an intermission, Sabbath day rest, is still understood and observed. You would have 6 days of working and the 7th day of rest. The month and the week are 2 different segments of time. Well, the month is made up of weeks, but they are 2 separate measurements of time. Questions we need to closely examine are the concepts of an extended intermission period at the end of the month, waiting for the rebuilding of the moon, and that the moon also regulates the Sabbath, Yah's first feast. Now, here's the objection again. I'm going to repeat it. Very simple. God's 7th day is a day of rest. 6 days he created, and the 7th day he rested. Never, ever did he say, when the moon is such, that is the 7th day. He worked 6 days, and the next day he rested. Very, very simple. Does the moon tell us the 7th day? Here are scriptures that will point to the moon telling us the days.
The passages we need to examine, Genesis 1:14-15. Here we find the ordination of Yahweh's calendar. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. And let there be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. Psalm 104:19 is a second witness that the moon is ordained for Moedim. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. So the sun tells the time, and the moon tells the day and the month. Psalm 8:3-4. The moon is ordained for visitation with man. Again, Psalm 8:3-4. When I consider the heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars, which thou hast ordained. What is man that thou art mindful of him, the Son of Man that thou hast visited him? And then Jeremiah 31, 35 through 36, and we have here, Thus saith Yahweh, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yahweh of Sabaoth is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith Yahweh, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. And in summary, it says, if the ordinance of the moon cease to be observed, then Israel, that is his chosen people, we who are the Israelites, will cease to be a nation before him. Amos 8:5, which is the new moon, is recognized as a non-commerce day. When will the unscrupulous merchants who are not Yahweh-minded in heart, and they would say this, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances by deceit? Is the new moon special in Yah's eyes? Well, yes. Ezekiel 46, 1 through 3. Thus saith Elohim, Yahweh Elohim, the gate of the inner court that looketh to the east shall be shut the 6 working days, but on the Sabbath it shall be open, and in the day of the new moon it shall be opened. Verse 2 is, and the prince shall enter by way of the porch of that gate without, and shall stand by the post of the gate, and the priest shall prepare his burnt offering and his peace offerings, and he shall worship at the threshold of the gate, when he shall go forth. But the gate shall not be shut until evening. Likewise, the people of the land shall worship at the door of this gate before Yahweh in the Sabbaths and in the new moons. So what does it say? The doors of the tabernacle were only opened during new moons and Sabbaths. Isaiah 66, 22 through 23. And it shall happen that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, says Yahweh. What does that say? The new moons will continue to be observed throughout eternity. If new moons are worship days in the past and will be in the future, what about now?
So here are some problems with keeping a repeating 7-day cycle that Sabbatarians need to resolve. Keeping the spring feast. Abib 10 floats on the Roman calendar. Abib 10 could land on a Saturday on a Gregorian calendar. Well, Abib 10 is never on a Sabbath on the Creator's lunar calendar, because Abib 10 is Lamb's Day. In the 10th day of Abib, the day to set aside the Passover lamb, is a work day. On Abib 10, Lamb's Day, Yeshua rode on a donkey, making the donkey work. They cut palm branches. There was buying and selling of Paschal lambs. Yeshua healed a man, and everyone thought it was wonderful and praised Yah. Well, Yeshua or his followers were not accused of breaking the Sabbath for any of these actions on Lamb's Day. And you can look this up for yourself, Luke 19 and Matthew 21. The 14th day of Abib is always the preparation day for the first day of unleavened bread. And here's the scriptures. You can look that up for yourself. And Abib 14 floats on a Roman Gregorian calendar. So the fact is that the 10th, 14th, and 16th of Abib are without exception commanded work days. The barley could be harvested on the 16th, and that's work, and that would be after the wave sheaf had been offered. So on the 10th, they were to get a lamb. The 14th, we know, was preparation day for Sabbath, and the wave sheaf could be harvested on the 16th. So up here you will see the biblical calendar showing the 10th is on a work day. There's 6 working days and then a Sabbath. So the 14th is a preparation day. Then you have Sabbath. And then the first day of that week after the Passover unleavened bread day would be your wave sheaf when you could work. So if you put that over on a Gregorian calendar, there's going to be times that the 16th, that Passover would be on a Saturday. I'm looking at a Gregorian date there. This would be Abib 14. A Passover day would land on a Saturday, and that's a day that you are to work and prepare things for Passover. So it doesn't match up with a Gregorian calendar. Well, if there is a continuous 7-day cycle, every few years, either the 10th, 14th, or 16th will fall on a Saturday. And there's evidence with Abib 10 fell on a Saturday in 2020, the 10th of Nisan. And here, I looked this up for you, was Saturday the 4th, April 2020. And that is a work day of going and getting a lamb. And it happened on a Saturday. So, and also the 14th fell on a Saturday in 2022, which was just this year that we're in right now. So there's no legislation provided to do these tasks a day early or late. These work dates are fixed. And Yahweh never has Israel do common work on a rest day. He is not the author of confusion. And here is a sample of it again. Brother Pete, do you have anything to add to this today? It shows here in March of 2018 that it landed on a Saturday. Lamb's Day landed on a Saturday. And in April of 2018, Passover landed on a Saturday. And those were both days that are commanded to work in the Bible.
I'll add that in some of our other videos, you can find where the Jews have whole sets of rules to handle these problems. You know, what happens when a work day, when you're supposed to do your lamb on a day which is declared to be a Sabbath. And all these rules only apply if you're trying to paste it all on top of the Gregorian calendar. If you're in the new moon system, there are no problems, and that's why the Scripture never deals with them, because the writers of Scripture are operating in a lunar time frame, lunar months.
Okay. And over here on the left again is the biblical calendar showing 10th would be in a work day, part of that work week. And the 14th again is part of the work week. Your Sabbaths line up over here on the 7th day. Well, an interesting concept we need to consider for Saturday Sabbatarians, which, by the way, I was for my whole life until I found out about the Creator's Sabbath. So we just want to get this message out to as many people as we can. Okay, go ahead, Brother Pete.
Yes, Sunday and Saturday, a double counterfeit. We are, at times, given two counterfeits from which to choose. One is an obvious fraud that only the enemies of the Father would accept. Professed believers, on the other hand, accept the other fraud, thinking they are in the truth, and sometimes will not move from this position. This is a master double deception. This is not necessarily stated in Scripture, but there is evidence that this is true.
So now we must consider whether Satan invented the heptad or continuous 7-day cycle, since that ignorant believers and the enemies of Yah chose the pagan Sunday, the first day of the week. Professed but unenlightened believers who would never choose an obvious fraud will naturally choose a seventh day on a Roman Catholic Gregorian calendar. Is this also a double deception? Yes, it is. Here are more problems with the present-day calendar that Sabbatarians must resolve. I was told by a Saturday-keeping friend that Yeshua did not come to correct Sabbath keeping, so we must be keeping it properly still today. Well, there's no evidence that Yeshua corrected the calendar of the Jewish people, and from this lack of evidence, the only thing we can conclude is that Israel was still keeping a lunar solar calendar 2,000 years ago.
In 46 BC, Julius Caesar asked astronomer Sosthenes to suggest ways to improve the calendar. Acting on Sosthenes' suggestion, Caesar ordered the Romans to disregard the moon in calculating their calendars. And you can find that in the World Book Encyclopedia, Volume 3, page 28.
And also in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII corrected the errors of the Julian calendar, and over time the majority of the civilized world adopted the calendar we adhere to today, the Gregorian calendar. Remember what Daniel 7:25 says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. So we see where the Julian calendar changed times without the moon, and so did the Gregorian calendar without new moon days.
Neither the Julian nor the Gregorian calendar regulates time according to Scripture. They arbitrarily begin the year in winter days at midnight and completely ignore the lunar cycle and the new moon, much less the sun. So why do we trust the same calendar to be honest with Yahweh's Sabbaths?
So here's the question. Are these the Sabbaths? The 8, 15, 22nd, 29? Yes, they are. And that Sabbaths are regulated by the phases of the moon. And so here, this will show you a calendar with the phases of the moon, and the Sabbaths all line up on the seventh day. 6 working days and a Sabbath. 6 working days and a Sabbath. And so to access more information about this topic, please go to our website, lunarsabbathday.com. And thank you so much for being here today, and please share this with others so that they can learn about the Sabbath and the calendar in the heavens.
This is Pete, and I'll tack on a comment here, and that is two things. Is for the neophyte, the one first looking at this, is to understand that the weeks belong to the months. And also understand we call a month a month because it comes from the word moon or month. Thus the ancients kept months, and the weeks were in their months. And when you keep the month that way, you naturally have a pause, which is called the new moon. You will notice that people who keep a consecutive month, a consecutive week, a Gregorian-type system, pagan system, do not know how to keep a new moon. They might try to throw some in here or there, but you wind up with new moons falling on Sabbaths, on work days. It just doesn't work, which is why consecutive weekers have trouble with the new moon and often just dismiss it completely. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, Okay, well, thank you. And we just welcome you to go to our website. And also we have YouTube channel, which you might be listening to right now, with many more topics for you to study out. So thanks, Brother Pete.